A very good morning, good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Bill Bryson. How have you enjoyed your time aboard the Queen Mary 2?
Fantastic. It's been wonderful. I mean, I've done, Cynthia, my wife, and I have done this a few times, but this has been a particularly memorable trip. And I think largely, from my perspective, because of all the wonderful port stops along the way, on the way up. I really like that. I like when you dock and you can get off and just wander around. And I thought the great revelation to me on this trip was Quebec City. I thought it was just fantastic. I'd heard it was good. I'm glad you all agree. I particularly like, and I'm very lucky that Cynthia feels the same way. I really do like that feeling of getting off in a place, any of the ports we stopped at, and just wandering, just going for a long walk and not knowing what you're going to find. That to me is still one of the most exciting things in the world, is just to come to a junction and decide, should we go left? Should we go straight ahead? Should we go right? This looks nice down there. Let's go see what that's like. But of course, I mean, the reason everybody's come on this is because of, you know, the comfort and the elegance and the great food and just that wonderful feeling of being cosseted the whole time, of just, you know, you don't have a care in the world. Everything is looked after for you. You know, your biggest decision is, you know, what you're going to eat next. I mean, I'm sure I'm giving away no secrets, but every morning we go to breakfast, and as soon as we come back to our room, Cynthia's opening the menu to see what's for lunch and what's for dinner.
But you do have a real nostalgia for what the Americans want. It does annoy us Brits when you use the term quaintness, but the quaint things about Britain.
It just, you know, there are little indicators of a quality of life. I really do believe. And there's a sort of, you know, there is a sort of classiness in an awful lot of the things that you find just as sort of background furniture in British life. The mailboxes, the pillar boxes, the phone boxes, and that kind of thing. And it indicates, I do think it indicates a kind of classiness. I really do. I mean, it was something that appealed to me a lot when I first got there. I like the pace of life. I love the countryside. The fact that, you know, that the countryside is, so much of it is still so beautiful. The idea that, you know, you've got 60 million people packed onto a really very small island. Britain, the whole of Britain is the same size as Iowa, my own state, and Minnesota put together. And between them, they probably have about, you know, 8 or 9 million people. Britain has 60 million people in that same space. And yet, you know, it remains, by and large, intensely beautiful. I think that's a real achievement, and that's a big part of why I do like it, and why I become, you know, sort of nostalgic about it, or why I am, you know, constantly speaking out when I see that being eroded, because I think it's just such a shame to lose that.
I just wondered whether, when you first arrived, whether you were thrown by any of the many regional dialects and accents.
What did he say? No. Yeah, I mean, I remember being absolutely sort of enchanted and confused in equal measures when I first came to Britain, because it was just so different. And I mean, I made a joke of this in No Small Island, but it was absolutely true that I went to a hotel. I arrived in Dover late at night, and I went to like a guest house. There was a chain of guest houses along the front, and it just inland from the front. And I knocked on the door, and I asked for a room, and the woman leaned out an upstairs window and told me to go to some hotel. And I said, "Where is that?" And she said, "On the front." And I thought, I don't know what the front of what, you know. And it was just kind of one thing after another, hearing these expressions that I didn't know, and being told things like, "We're not doing tea now, we're doing high tea." And I said, what is that? I mean, what is high tea? I mean, do we all sit on step ladders or what? You know, and it was fascinating to be in a place where they were speaking the same language that I'd grown up with, and obviously, and yet, you know, so much of it was mysterious to me. And then when you did factor in things like accents and so on, but particularly sort of in Scotland, for instance, in Glasgow, I mean, I can remember just not having the faintest idea what people said to me, and that was only a couple of weeks ago.
But ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in thanking a wonderful
speaker
this voyage, Bill Bryson. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.